Arman is currently working out the Competent Communicator Manual for project number 5, The Body Speaks. The title of his speech is Fear. Today, Arman will be discussing a distressing event from his childhood that eventually led him to develop a particular fear. He will go on to discuss how he first addressed the fear and how he eventually went on to overcome it. Let's welcome Arman.
I'm a tad bit sick today, so if I start coughing, I have this water to slow down. Okay. I was 5 years old when I first had my near-death experience. I still remember it to this day. This was my cousin's 8th birthday party, and the entire event was situated in his backyard. There was a huge grill for all the adults to mingle and get to know each other. There was a huge pool for everyone from middle school to the teenagers to go ahead and swim in. And then there was a spot just for the youngsters, the jacuzzi. And that's where I was the entire time. I would say after the first 5 to 10 minutes, I wanted to be a rebel and I wanted to mingle with the teenagers. So I got up out of the jacuzzi and I walked over to the swimming pool. And there I was, in the 6 feet deep section, overlooking everything, seeing how much fun every single person was having. And I knew eventually, one of these days, I was going to be old enough to where I would be able to swim in the swimming pool. Now, as I'm admiring, one of my close friends comes out of nowhere from behind and decides to push me in the water. And there I am. I just fall, splash into the water. At that time, I didn't know how to swim. So the only thing I knew how to do was to go ahead and just move my arms around, flapping it left and right. And this wasn't helping. All I was doing was wasting more energy. And I wasn't even able to scream out for help because every single time I tried to open my mouth, more water was gushing in. I was eventually losing breath, and I felt as though I was suffocating. I felt as though I was going to die. And as I'm submerging in the water, I could very faintly hear my mom screaming out, "Hey, Arman is drowning! Arman is drowning! Someone, go save him!" And to this day, I still remember my dad. He was at the time wearing a 3-piece suit, looking extremely well-dressed. He had a plate of food, and he tossed it aside and went sprinting to the pool, dived in, swam over to me, picked me up, and put me back on land. But that day, my dad ended up saving my life. But once everything settled down, he told me, "Arman, the only reason this entire situation happened is because you can't swim, and we need to go ahead and address that. Starting this weekend, I'm going to go ahead and teach you how to swim." I was extremely nervous. At that point, I had developed a fear in swimming because I had almost drowned. But I didn't want to let my dad down, so I decided to say yes and that I was going to go ahead and learn. Now came the weekend. My brother and I, we grabbed our swimming trunks and we walked over to the community pool. And there was my dad in his short trunks. It was a little too short. But my dad told me, "Arman, Ashraf, I have designed a swimming schedule for you, and I've broken it down into 3 different lessons. Today, we're going to start lesson number 1. And lesson number 1, I still remember, was extremely simple. All we had to do was hold onto the railings and basically move our legs with our body parallel to the pool floor in a flapping motion, as though we were actually swimming. And lesson 1 was really easy. If swimming was going to be this easy, I may have even learned it in 1 day. My dad thought it would be adequate if I spent a few days on lesson number 1. So once I mastered lesson number 1, it was on to lesson number 2. Now lesson number 2 was a tad bit more difficult because this time I actually had to swim. Basically, I had to swim from one side of the 3-foot section all the way across to the other side of the 3-foot section. I wasn't too nervous because at that time, I was 4'11". I wasn't going to drown in 3 foot unless I was extremely dumb. And there I was, starting my day for lesson number 2. I tried the first few times, but I couldn't defy gravity. I kept plummeting. After the 20th try, I would say I was finally able to move across one time. And after the 25th try, I was able to move across extremely easily. Next, I went to the 4 feet deep section and once again started the same motion. I was able to swim extremely easily across the pool. I practiced that for the next couple of days and eventually I had mastered lesson number 2. Now, we're on the final stage of the swimming process, lesson number 3. For this lesson, I had to swim from one end of the pool, the 3 feet deep section, all the way down to the 6 foot deep section, the most deep part of the pool. My heart plummeted to my stomach and I once again became extremely nervous. This was the same exact location where I almost drowned, where I almost suffocated, and now I had to swim back there. I told my dad, no, I can't do it, and he told me that I made it this far, I might as well close it out. Once again, I didn't want to let him down, so I decided to go ahead and finish off lesson number 3. The first few times, it was extremely easy. I was able to swim down the 3 feet section. I was able to swim down the 4 feet section. But once I was entering the 5 foot territory, there was a small mental block that prevented me from going any further. I became extremely wary, and I decided to start back over. And this process consistently continued over and over and over again because I did not want to go to the 5 foot deep section. After I would say the 50th try, I had a small epiphany. The worst that could happen already happened. I almost drowned the first day in my cousin's backyard. So what's the worst that could happen now with my dad watching me? If I were to drown, he would just save me like he did last time, right? So this time around, I didn't want to stop. So this time, I made the mindset that I was going to reach all the way to the end. So there we go. I began again. I swim all the way through the 3 feet section, make it to the 4 feet section, and as I'm entering the 5 feet territory, that mental block comes back again. And this time, I go ahead and I push it sideways, and I keep on swimming, make it through the 5 feet section, and keep on swimming, and make it to the 6 foot section. There we go. I accomplished my goal. Well, 50%. I still have to go back. But going back was much easier than arriving there in the first place. Now, why exactly am I telling everyone in this room this story? The reason why is because I'm sure every single one of us in this room have one particular fear. And in that story, I had a particular fear as well, and that was the fear of swimming. But after consistently attacking swimming, I was eventually able to overcome that fear. Nowadays, I don't view fear as a mental block, but rather as a 4-lettered acronym, FEAR. Face everything and rise. Thank you.